Going on as usual. Today's Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, and the debate time got changed and the Greens are out. So weird. They changed the debate time because of the hockey game, of course, and the Greens are out because they don't qualify to be on the debate stage because of the rules of the debate commission. And well, that's good news, I guess. It won't be gummed up with the Greens. Next is the NDP. They're as irrelevant as the Greens are. China is interfering in our election via the Senate. And we're going to start with the 9. There's been an RCMP letter released yesterday, and there are 9 suspected people who have been working with China, at least that's what the RCMP says. And so it's very interesting. Those names are big names. Chrystia Freeland, Marco Mendicino. Marco Mendicino's got a prominent position in Mr. Carney's government right now. And Chrystia Freeland was vying for leadership, right? So she's been backed by China. These people need to be investigated, arrested, and there's a lot going on there, and we're going to start there. Jason Kenney is reimagining the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and it's very interesting because he's calling people Russian stooges if they say, hey, remember that the U.S. CIA orchestrated the Donbass coup in 2014? He's like, oh, that's a Russian talking point, and I'll show that to you. It's crazy town. So what's your game, Jason Kenney? Trans people are not the same as biological women, says a court in the United Kingdom, top court as well. And so that's good and bad that this court needs to actually weigh in on this. But the fact that men pretending to be women are not women, good. I'm glad that the law sees it that way. But if they didn't see it that way, they'd invalidate themselves, I think. Danielle Smith introduces Compassionate Intervention Act. I understand what they're trying to do. I think it's obviously a poison pill. They're trying to use the EPA. Lee Zedlin is trying to use the EPA to go after chemtrails in the United States, and that's interesting. They're saying they're poisoning the air. Interesting. And Bernier is going to be on Tucker Carlson today. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, I want to mention I have a meeting that I have to go to, so I have a hard timeline here. So I have to cut off the streaming in about 25 minutes. So I'm going to do as much as I can. The other show that I post may be longer later, but we're going to stream now, and I'll cut it off when I have to cut it off, and then come back and check later. There may be more show. Anyway, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Disclosed TV is reporting transgender women are not legally defined as women. The United Kingdom Supreme Court has ruled. Yay! So, I mean, that's a win, right? It is a very interesting comment on our society that we need the courts to say that, yes, men pretending to be women are not women. It's bad. But I'm glad the court finally saw kind of sense and said, yes, of course, men pretending to be women aren't women. And now, time for everybody to get on board with this because holy smokeronis, it's been years and people have just gone crazy. Let's talk about China. And what's going on with China? Well, the RCMP, hot off the presses, says Jay, from submitted respectfully, Sergeant Peter Merrifield, RCMP, you need to read this, share, and repost. So here's the list of the 9 names of the people who are named in this RCMP letter, and we're going to read it. Don't worry. Marco Mendicino, Dominic LeBlanc, Bill Blair, David McGuinty, Dalton McGuinty's brother, which mind-blowing, but they look the same, don't they, right? Like, he's also got bad teeth. Anita Anand, Steve McKinnon, Melanie Jolie, Arif Varini, and Chrystia Freeland. And so here is a bit of the letter. We're not going to read all of it, but some of it. It says, Mr. Carney, it says an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney, April 12th, 2025. Mr. Carney, as you stand for your first election to the House of Commons as a member of Parliament, you are also seeking a mandate from Canadians to become their Prime Minister. I'll just jump down to the important part. It says the Liberal cabinet ministers named herein, past and present, some now working in your Prime Minister's office, Marco Mendicino, have directly and by intent permitted serious breaches of Canadian law. They have failed to act on serious allegations related to national security, conducted themselves in their cabinet roles with apparent malfeasance, and as a result have ultimately placed several Canadian citizens at grave risk. After 2 years of inaction by these cabinet ministers that you have now assumed leadership of, several innocent Canadians have been placed at risk of direct retaliation by Chinese foreign intelligence and security agencies. Had any of your ministers acted in the 2 years prior to October 24, when their intervention was requested by the undersigned, they would have stopped innocent Canadians from being identified for their activities and knowledge of Canadian covert intelligence operations in China. These innocent individuals now and forever have a target on their backs unnecessarily in a war of espionage between Canada and China. We are asking you to show leadership and immediately remove the below listed individuals from your party and or this election. We, of course, are offering you documents, communication records, and evidence to support these claims. The named ministers, past and present, of concern are as follows. Marco Mendicino, and there's a write-up for each. And are we going to read it? You bet we're going to read it. Marco Mendicino, Moreno failed as Minister of Public Safety to act in protecting Canadians abroad from potential arrest and detention, failed to respond on direction from Prime Minister Trudeau's office to address impropriety at CSIS and the RCMP, permitted breaches of law, breaches of process, and breaches of policy by both CSIS and by the RCMP. Dominic LeBlanc failed as Minister of Public Safety to address breaches against Canadians with improper use of electronic spyware by CSIS and the RCMP, failed to address breaches of Canadian Charter of Rights, permitted breaches against labor unions by improper government use of spyware, failed to hold account CSIS and RCMP to their restrictions of operations in sensitive sectors of, I think this is here, national security, and failed to respond to these concerns after direction from Prime Minister of Canada. Further, did not hold CSIS to account for withholding critical national security information from an active RCMP national security investigation. 3. Bill Blair failed as Minister of Public Safety by authorizing extreme powers for CSIS to undertake inappropriate actions against innocent Canadians, permitted breaches of ministerial directives on national security operations in sensitive sectors, permitted breaches of the Canadian Charter of Rights. David McGuinty failed as chair of NSICOP and recently Minister of Public Safety to address improper actions at CSIS for withholding critical national security information from an RCMP investigation, failed to protect the Canadian Charter of Rights, failed to address the risks to Canada or Canadian citizens abroad. Anita Anand failed as the president of the Treasury Board to intercede and address improper use of spyware by the RCMP against labor and union executives during a period of collective bargaining and unfair labor practices filing. Did further fail to uphold the Canadian Charter of Rights and permitted the Treasury Board of Canada to engage in bad faith collective bargaining, knowing that serious breaches of law had occurred. Steve McKinnon failed as Minister of Labor to uphold the Canadian Charter of Rights, failed to investigate breaches by the RCMP and labor-designated sensitive sectors during sanctioned labor activities and collective bargaining. Melanie Joly failed as Minister of Foreign Affairs to address safety risks to Canadians traveling abroad to China and their family members in China resulting from public release of protected Section 38 national security documents by the RCMP and the Public Protection Service of Canada without redaction. Arif Farini failed as Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada to address safety risks to Canadians traveling abroad to China and their family members in China resulting from public release of protected Section 38 national security documents by the RCMP and the Public Prosecution Service of Canada without redaction. Chrystia Freeland failed as Deputy Prime Minister to address reported breaches of labor rights, misuse of spyware technology by CSIS, RCMP breaches, and breaches of charter rights. So he says, Mr. Carney, you have an opportunity to prove unequivocally to all Canadians that you will place Canadians' ministerial responsibilities in the rule of law above partisan political activity. If indeed you are presenting Canadians a choice of something new, then take action now rather than make election campaign promises to look into it later. Demonstrate that you are not the same old government of the past 9 years that has failed to protect Canada. It is never wrong to do the right thing and to earn the trust and confidence of Canadians. If you wish to be a nation builder for the future, then you must not surround yourself and empower the failed engineers of the past. Submitted respectfully, Sergeant Peter Merrifield. So this is very concerning, looking the other way, and he's got supporting material as well, looking the other way when there are many ministers who are allowing all of these breaches, government breaches with spyware, charter right breaches, and further. That's very concerning. What is Mark Carney going to do about it? Absolutely nothing. I don't think he's going to do a damn thing about it. Nothing at all. It was released on the 12th and he hasn't done anything yet. So why would he do anything now? It seems pretty wild, right? So CCFR says Liberals fail to act on foreign interference evidence just released in an open letter sent to Mark Carney by Sergeant Peter Merrifield and Detective Paul McNamara, retired, shows that the Liberal government knew about foreign interference but chose to ignore it at their own benefit. And here are the details. And we just read through the letter, so we don't need to go through that there, but you can check it out. Link is in the description. Sean says this damning open letter from 2 RCMP officers calling for the resignation of 9 Liberal cabinet ministers is not a good look for the Carney government. Attached are the first 4 pages. You can follow the link below to get the full PDF package, including the appendices or the appendix, and that includes the supporting material. Has this made the news anywhere? Not yet, as far as he can see. So interesting. Should be a pretty big story, you'd think. John says, I'm left wondering, when we have 9 political figures identified by the National Police Force that are a threat to their country's security, why are they allowed to run for political office? Not all of them are running for political office. Arif Farini is not. Freeland is. Mel Joly is. I don't know about David McGuinty. Maybe. Anita Anand is. I don't know about Steve McKinnon. Bill Blair is. Dominic LeBlanc is. Marco Mendicino is. He's a chief of staff in Carney's office. I don't know if he's running for re-election or if he's just starting his new job as chief of staff for Carney. I don't know if he's running again. So Marco Mendicino is a check mark too, but he's still involved regardless of whether he's being elected or not. And like, if you watch him, he is a practiced lawyer who will argue with you day as night on behalf of his clients forever. He will not drop it. He will just keep arguing. It's insane. Like, just watching him, even after he's lost, even after they bring out text messages and things like that, he'll still argue day as night. Doesn't matter. It's unbelievable. So, I mean, not to say I can't blame Carney for wanting him on his team, but I mean, they're very similar, right? They're very, very similar. I think they have the same affliction with the truth. Anyway, moving on a little bit. Have we done all of these? I can't remember. Here is what's going on in China. And this is kind of tangentially related. China uses all of these tricks to influence and interfere in our politics. And in China, the social credit is making all of these people homeless because they can't participate in society. Sorry, that's too loud. They can't participate in society, right? And so all of these people are just living on the streets because, well, their social credit score is too small for them to do anything else. So that's not great. It seems like that's what Carney wants to bring here, right? You have nothing to worry about if your social credit score is high enough. Crazy town. Let's do some liberal stuff. And there's China stories kind of laden throughout here. So it's interesting. And foreign stories. It's weird. Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre gets all sorts of endorsements from locals, right? He gets unions, he gets police departments, he gets fire departments, right? He gets all these endorsements that are local people. Mark Carney gets Mike Myers doing a weird thing at a Canadian hockey rink. Weird because both of the people in the video are people who live in the United States most of the time, right? Mike Myers and Mark Carney. So, you know, elbows up Canada or whatever the heck they're talking about. And now Mark Carney's got a Neil Young endorsement. Neil Young, who didn't want to have his music on Spotify if Joe Rogan was on Spotify, and then quietly returned his music to Spotify because, you know, all that royalty money is worth it anyway. I might as well take the money, says Neil Young. And then he gives this endorsement and says, Evan Solomon weighs in, who is running, and he's connected to China through the Eurasia Group, and I'll show you that in just a minute, because crazy town. I told you, China's laden all through this. But Evan Solomon says Neil weighs in, like everybody in Canada knows who Neil is. Mr. Carney, I believe you're the person to do it. I don't know what it is, but okay, Neil. I believe you're the person our country needs to lead us through this crazy situation and bring us to the other side as a stronger, smarter, more resilient Canada. Our core values of caring and fairness and generosity intact. Hold on, core values of caring and fairness and generosity? I don't think that those are the core values that Canada was built around. Freedom, personal responsibility, missing from generosity and fairness. What the heck? Fairness? Fairness? Go talk to Tamara Lich about fairness. Go talk to Chris Barber about fairness. Go talk to the pro-Palestinian idiot people who are desecrating our streets seemingly without any kind of consequence about fairness. Fairness. Give me a freaking break, Neil. Our core values. He's talking about fundamentally changing Canada into this something of a nation that I don't recognize, right? And I mean, Neil doesn't even live here. So he says, without a doubt, you've got the chops to get it done. No, he doesn't. Look at his chops. Oh my gosh, I can't look at his chops. And man, you've got the guts to take it on. No, he doesn't. He sounds like an idiot. Like, Mark Carney doesn't sound brave. He sounds testy and kind of pissy most of the time. Like, he sounds like a father who you would never impress, right? You're like, oh, look at my Nobel Peace Prize dad. And he's like, oh yeah, that's great. He doesn't seem like somebody that you'd want to even impress anyway. He doesn't seem like he's got guts at all. It's a heavy lift for sure, Mr. Carney, but I, for one, am with you all the way. Well, they can be with each other down in the United States for all I care, because it has nothing to do with us. Bob says Mark Carney's latest celebrity endorser, Neil Young, became a U.S. citizen in 2020. So Mike Myers is also a U.S. citizen. Here's Sam Cooper. He says, exclusive Chinese election interference network tied to Senate breach investigation, a Canadian Parliament assessment, or a Canadian parliamentarian assessed by national security officials to be a part of a Toronto-based Chinese consul election interference network, was the subject of a high-profile foreign interference investigation into an alleged breach of Canada's Senate. The Bureau has confirmed through multiple intelligence sources. Sources said the investigation examined allegations that the parliamentarian enabled a close associate, described as a female Chinese national, to bypass Senate security protocols. In an interview with the Bureau, a sitting senator who asked not to be named due to the sensitivity of the matter was asked whether they believed NSICOP's findings were valid and whether Chinese state actors had influence in the Senate. Without a doubt, the senator said. I've seen it with my own eyes. Some speeches in the Senate of Canada, one would not be surprised if they'd been written directly in the office of the United Front in Beijing, on DeepSeek, no less. Many of the senators, I'm joking, DeepSeek is like ChatGPT. Anyway, many of the senators, if you see the positions they articulate, the way they articulate and the way they vote speaks volumes about who they stand with. But the one thing about being a public office holder, at some point in time, you've got to stand on your feet. In interviews conducted between 2022 and 2025, the Bureau's sources who request anonymity due to fear of professional retribution said they believe Canada's national security agencies were inhibited from pursuing broader investigations into parliamentarians and politicians across all levels of government. They described how CSIS agents' efforts to advance foreign interference cases were at times delayed or obstructed by senior management reluctant to scrutinize powerful political figures. Crazy town, right? I mean, like, I'm not surprised by any of that, but it seems like if only we knew how bad it really is. Yara Sachs, who is a liberal not named of the 9, but I mean, maybe they just missed one, says she blames the media conspiracy theories in dismissing Mark Carney's contacts with friends of China. Sachs made the comment in a heated exchange at the Benai Birth Canada debate with Roman Baber. So interesting. So I think that there's a lot of evidence to say that there's some concerning ties here all the way to the top, if not directly to the Prime Minister Carney and Trudeau and his handlers, Butts and Mark Carney's wife at Eurasia and Evan Solomon and all of those people, then certainly to the Deputy Prime Minister who's named in the RCMP letter. So there's like a lot of questions that I have, and nobody seems interested because they say, the real danger here, hate speech online. Right. And I feel like the hate speech online might target somebody, right? Like, so I don't know. Carl says, here we have Eurasia Group boss, Ian, not Rick Moranis Bremer, in China doing some business for his roster of corporate clients. Ian employs Mark Carney's wife, Diana. He employs Gerald Butts. He employs John Baird. He employs Liberal candidate Evan Wannabe Painting Solomon. Right? Funnily enough, the media doesn't seem interested in China Eurasia Group takeover of Canada. What should make it much more public and apparent, or we should make it much more public and apparent, Canadians deserve much better than this charade. So Andy Lee says, you won't believe which families we found in China at the same time Mark Carney was pitching his bids to the Bank of China executives. Ian Bremer, president of the Eurasia Group, your boss, right? So, right, Chinese FM meets president of Eurasia Group, October 19th, 2024. Mark Carney, what's a good way to take over Canada? Let's put our guy in charge of Canada. Sounds good. High fives, everyone. Right? Like, Evan Solomon says, it's always great to see familiar faces on the campaign trail, but all of these people are related, and they're all have very concerning connections back to China. Mark Carney is saying the real danger here is the United States wants to take our water. And I don't think water is an issue. Is water an issue suddenly? I think that the United Nations and the globalists want us to think water is an issue, but I don't think water is an issue. Donald Trump turned on the tap, and look at that. California's green again, right? Jeepers creepers. With water. Green with water. Because the plants are healthy. Here's Mark Carney.
The relationship we had with the Americans. These guys weren't wrong. They want us to be the 51st state. They want to break us. They want to break us so they can own us. They want our resources. They want our water. They want our land. They want our country. And what do we say? You don't have to die. You don't have to die. Never. Never. The relationship.
You don't ever have to die? What are you talking about, Mark Carney? I think he's saying to defend our national sovereignty, you don't have to die. But still, very, very strange. Mark Carney says, the consumer carbon tax, it didn't do much, just reduced emissions by 6%. I don't even think it did that. I would highly doubt it did that. My question is, and I don't know the answer to this, but is the carbon tax fully off of everything right now? And when Carney wins, if he wins, he will put on the carbon tax again on the industries? Or is the carbon tax off the consumers now, but it is still on the industries?
It is also the new reality.
I don't know why that's playing anything. The new reality. I don't know why that played anything. Okay, here is Mark Carney. I hope this one is the one that plays. But here he's talking about 6%. We'll just listen to the first little bit.
If you look at the emissions reductions that come from the consumer carbon tax alone, it's about 6%, of the overall emissions reduction. So it's something, but it's not very much. And so the vast majority of emission reduction work is being done by the large emitters, the large polluters. And what we've done there is tightening the carbon market, creating a new system where they are paying for emission reductions of housing.
It's a fake market. It's a fictional market that's controlled by the government, and they can do whatever they want with it. And they've screwed up our economy by increasing a tax which has been inflationary. And so there you go. Bradshaw says, Carney getting annoyed again with reporters. The thing is, Carney, you advised Trudeau on these promises. So yeah, these are old promises, not new ones. So Pocket Aces says, testy when getting called out for recycling their old promises that they never delivered on. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. This is funny. Next, he's going to promise water for Indigenous reserves. Here we go.
It's not an old promise if I make it. Okay? It's a promise. It is a new promise, and it's different. It's not an old promise if...
That's a practiced tone, right? That's a comfortable, that's like slipping on your very well-loved slippers, that tone it sounds like for Mark Carney. Like he's telling somebody, okay, this is my way or the highway, okay? You got it? So like that tone means you don't ask questions now. That's it. The end, right? And so Anti-Taxer says, Abacus Data just released polling results that ranked Mark Carney's likability rating as high as Jack Layton's was. I don't know. You tell me. And this is the same.
It's not an old promise if I make it. Okay? It's a promise. It is a new promise.
Okay, you hear me? You hear me? I want to point out, I feel like this is a good example of censorship. I made this post 13 hours ago, and I said he's likable like body odor, right? I don't know why. Body odor is not likable. Anyway, 38 views, but I've got a blue check mark, but 38 views, right? So all the other blue check marks have hundreds of views, right? Hundreds of views with this guy, all of the blue check marks. And I scroll down to see no blue check mark. Where's the no blue check mark people? 209 views. So people who haven't even paid for Twitter, 319 views 11 hours ago. I'm being throttled. Nobody can see me for some reason, right? So weird, right? Very, very strange. Very, very strange indeed. It's censorship. I mean, I think that there's a lot of censorship that goes on around our world, and that's unfortunate right now. Kian says, I've obtained documentation of Carney's star Liberal candidate calling gay men perverse in a shocking F-slur, he called them fags and faggots, laden tirade. Will Mark Carney fire Ryan Turnbull? Or will he stand beside his despicable behavior, this despicable behavior? I mean, if you get rid of this guy and then the 9 others, or 8 others, whatever, who are currently running, then he's not going to have any kind of benches or anything like that. He's not going to have anything left. They're all gone. They're all gone. Dan says, look what we dug up. Mark Carney admits that under his plan, the government will favor some industries and penalize others. It's 20 seconds, but not that it's hard to understand, but he's saying, we're trying to figure out where the carbon market puck is going, and we're trying to skate to that, basically, which is the same kind of bullshit rhetoric that we've been hearing about this carbon market that they want to create. Carney's going to come in and create the carbon market. That's what he's going to do.
Anticipate, game out and anticipate where the price on carbon may need to go. Anticipate which activities will be favored and which will be penalized as the economy, by regulation, by government action.
Favored and penalized by regulation and government action. Great job, that Mark Carney. That's what everybody in Canada wants. More years of Liberals favoring and penalizing some businesses and not favoring others. Here's Mark Carney again. And Tracy says, think about it. Carney is going to send armed police to the doors of licensed RCMP gun owners to forcibly confiscate their legally acquired property. He's talking about Poilievre's notwithstanding clause and it being dangerous. I'm having this conversation. Well, I was having this conversation on Twitter, on X with somebody, and he was being disingenuous. But fundamentally, I don't like the idea. I think that we have a judicial problem. Like, I think the judges have gone rogue, and I think that we need to deal with that. I think we have the laws on the books to deal with a lot of the criminality we're seeing. We don't need a 3 strikes law. We don't need to use notwithstanding clauses. We need to clean out the justices. We need to clean out the institutions and fix them. And if we don't do that, then we're just begging to have innocent Canadians with their rights paused, being thrown in jail indiscriminately because 3 strikes or because strengthened anti-Semitism laws or anything like this. And I think that that's wrong. We need to clean out the judiciary. We can't just strip people of their rights to fix a judiciary problem. It's a failed premise. You're never going to win that way, because the judiciary is going to then use those new powers to screw with the people they were going to screw with anyway, using their power over the law anyway. So I don't think it's a good idea, and I think it screws us even more. And I think that it's not going to take us long to realize this is not going to be better. It's going to actually be worse. So I've got to say goodbye to the stream and everything. I think I'm going to come back because I want to get through the PPC stuff. So the full show is going to be about a half an hour long, maybe 33 minutes, I guess. But I got to cut off the stream right now. So thanks for watching, everybody, and come back and check out the show later because there'll be more. And we're back. While the liberals look inconsistent, there's a whole bunch of different scandals. There's a whole bunch of different things that are going on. The liberals are just kind of ignoring it. And so they're putting policy planks forward, and they're trying to move forward as if nothing to see here. Everything's fine. But it feels very uneven from a viewer, like from a viewpoint of a bystander, of somebody who's watching it. And with the conservatives, it's uneven as well. There are some things that I like the conservatives are doing, and some things that I think are terrible and don't make a lot of sense and aren't really in touch with what the Canadian people want. So here's a good example. All of the tabs that I've got for the conservatives are kind of, one's good, one's bad, and it's really weird. Here's a good one. This is a really good answer from Polyev, although again, after 4 years, if he thinks that he can fix the housing in 4 years, that's interesting. I don't know how that will be possible. Honestly, I genuinely don't know how that'll be possible. Maybe give everybody a free condo in Toronto? I'm not sure. They have 78 months of inventory on the condos in Toronto, which is just unbelievably high. Anyway, the question is, what does success look like? And Polyev, it's a great answer. Here we go.
Usually the final question I ask for any guest is, what does success look like for you? But I think in your case, I want to change that slightly. What does success look like for Canada 4 years from now if you're elected?
I think it's a place where every kid grows up knowing that they can achieve anything they want. Parents sit them down and say, look, what do you want to do? You want to be an astronaut? You want to start a business? You want to cure cancer? You just want to have a nice house with a dog and have a couple of kids that play street hockey in the front driveway? You can do any of that. All you have to do is work hard. And that's what I want the country to have. I just want everybody to have in this country. And that would be a success.
That's a good answer. Nice and straight. The choices of jobs that he cites are interesting, right? If you want to be an astronaut or like run a small business, even have a dog and a house. The dog and a house, which seems the most basic of all of the things that he laid out there, out of reach for everybody right now, right? Like if you were 18 years old and you had a new job, say $30,000 a year job, and you're doing great, and I understand 18 years old, $30,000 a year, is that realistic nowadays? I don't know. It wasn't when I was a kid. 18 years old, you're still making, minimum 10, 12 bucks an hour. Anyway, regardless, if you have all of that set up, $30,000 a year is nearly close enough to be able to afford all the bills that come with a $500,000 house. Like it just doesn't. And if you can find a cheaper house, well, maybe your job isn't there, right? Like, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately, if you say you could just move out to Alberta, there's $100,000 houses there, or Manitoba or Saskatchewan or something like that. Sure. But like, again, that problem with the job thing, right? Like if you're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go buy property, no job to support it. So, right. It's out of touch. If he says he's implying he can fix it, do you think that's true? But it's a good answer and people will like it, right? It'll resonate with a lot of people. Kirk says the CPC, see, this one's a bad one. Okay. So that was a good answer. This is a bad one. Okay. CPC, under Mr. Polyev, invited Mike de Jong to run for the Conservative Party and had the full support from the local riding association. Then the localization threw him under the bus for someone who allegedly wasn't even a CPC member, but was the right ethnic, whatever, for the CPC insiders. Other CPC politicians from the Punjab background rallied in favor of the ethically questionable decision and a clown show of a nomination, and not for the more experienced white guy. My candidate is one of them and spent more time helping elect his group than in our new ridings neighborhoods. Mark is running independent now. Hope he wins. So De Jong was told that he could be a CPC candidate. Then the CPC allowed him to lose to this guy. And now this guy's running against De Jong. And the previous Conservative MP, Ed Fast, endorsed Mike de Jong in that riding. So will we have Mike de Jong, the independent, come in and become an independent MP? We'll see. we'll see. It's interesting that the CPC would do that. Why do you think the CPC would do that? Yesterday I was talking about the World Sikh Organization. Does the World Sikh Organization operate in the Punjab? I'm not sure. It's something to look into. I'm just wondering. So weird stuff going on, right? Very strange happenings. Ian says former federal CPC cabinet minister Ed Fast has sidestepped the party candidate in his BC riding to endorse ex-provincial cabinet minister Mike De Jong, who's running for the riding as an independent after being rejected as a CPC candidate. So wild. Again, not surprising, but very concerning. People will like this. I think you can probably there's a good argument for this. I think, yeah, sure, go after scammers, fine. Polyev says a new conservative government will require Canadian banks and phone companies to detect scams in real time with AI. I'm wondering. A lot of people will like this. I'm not agreeing with the AI. I'm just saying that this is practically how they'll probably do it. And alert potential victims of suspicious activity. We will go after scammers with jail time and fines 10 times the amount defrauded. Protect our people for a change. So how would you detect scams in real time from a practical point of view? Ring, ring. Hello, Mark. Would you like to give us $100,000? You've won a contest, and all you have to do to get $1 million is deposit $100,000. And then what? A scam? This is the government of Canada. We've detected a scam on your line. Are they listening in on the phone calls real time? How do they know? And then what's the intervention? And how do you know that they're not going to do say I'm selling raw milk, right? I'm like, hey, hello, ring, ring, hello. Oh, did you signed up for the raw milk thing that, is totally above board and I have approval for? And then the government of Canada says, oh, this is a scam. We're going to disconnect you now, right? The thing that bothers me is not necessarily how they say they're going to use it, but how they could use it even if we didn't want them to use it that way. Because sure, right now it's the bad scammers that are getting the backhand of the government, right? But what happens if they're like, uh-oh, raw milk is also the same thing as a scam? What happens if they say, also, talking about this politically charged thing, talking about trans men or trans women or whatever, this is also just like that. And we're going to make sure that you can't do that, right? If you have a robocall to all sorts of people that says, the United Kingdom, the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom has said that men pretending to be women are not women, right? Oh, sorry, this is a scam. We can't have this on our phone lines, right? So I'm just saying, when it's a double-edged sword, it cuts through the red tape. But the other side could also cut through your rights, right? And it's just we're allowing them to do it. We're allowing them to do it on a really kind of weak premise. And I'm very concerned that this weak premise is going to be the thing that they flip it around on. Look what's happening in England. It's not even that difficult to imagine. Just look. Holy smoke. Table Salt says, Polyev, we will financially cripple fraudsters. So here he is talking about this. When I say there's a case to be made for this, I'm saying somebody could stand up and say, this is our plan. And then people would get behind it. They'd say, yeah, man, we should definitely do this to fraudsters. Fraudsters are mean, awful people who shouldn't exist. My concern, again, is turning it against innocent people, right? And we'll talk about what they're doing to the innocent people, Chris Barber, in a few minutes. But here's Polyev talking about his tough on crime bill. And it's not that I don't want to be tough on crime. It's that I want our institutions to uphold our laws as written. I don't want to remove Canadians' rights in order to have our laws interpreted properly. I want to have the justice, the judicial issue, that's hard to say, judicial issue, sorted out. I don't want to remove our rights in order to solve it. And that's the only solutions they offer. We'll remove your rights, we'll import more people from the third world, and we'll raise your taxes. That's it. That's the only things we know how to do.
Tools exist. That's why today I am announcing our plan to stop scammers who target Canadian seniors. We're going to pass the Stop Scamming Seniors Act, a common-sense law that forces banks and telecom companies to deploy state-of-the-art technology to catch scams and stop them before they happen, not after, when it is too late. This plan has a number of key steps. 1, we will mandate real-time scam detection systems by banks and telecoms, starting with seniors' accounts. 2, we will require automatic flagging and blocking of suspicious activity like unusual transactions or robocall traffic. 3, we will create the Seniors Transaction Shielding Protocol, a 24-hour hold on a high-risk transaction for seniors or anyone else who requests this extra protection with mandatory verification before money leaves their accounts.
So I have a water machine, and so does Odessa. People who watch Odessa, I don't watch Odessa. I have a hard time watching other people's shows, and not because I don't like their shows. It's just I want to spread the net wide, if you will. Anyway, regardless, Odessa has this thing. Ryan on the panel has this thing. It's the AquaCure machine, and it splits water into HHO gas, and you can look into that if you're interested. But I have this thing, and it's great. It's good. I like it. But I'm not trying to sell it to you. That's not the point. The point is the people who sell it have a difficult time selling it and shipping it because they're classified in this kind of realm, not necessarily as fraud or anything like that, but it's I'm not sure if it's supplements or something to that effect, but they basically have a difficult time shipping machines that are totally put together, and or if you purchase from them, then you get an email from your bank saying like, are you sure this is a high risk transaction, so on and so forth. So it's a way to soft censor. Again, like comparing it to the milk, right? If there's raw milk, it's more difficult to set up a reliable system to buy your raw milk than it is to set up a reliable system to get your fentanyl. And that's not by accident, right? And they'll use this stuff, not necessarily, maybe they'll use this stuff on the scammers, right? Sure, they'll use this stuff on the scammers, but they'll also use this stuff on people who are doing things that they decide are not good, not in the public interest. You know, that raw milk, oh, it's going to make people sick. You know, you don't want salmonella in your milk. And which is not accurate, but they'll sell that. And so on one side, there are going to be a lot of people who love this idea, and they're like, yeah, they're protecting seniors, blah, 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 blah. But I see the other side. This cuts both ways. And the other way this cuts is they can use it to silence anybody that they want. Water machines or anything like that. Supplements, right? Anything that could potentially be something that you want to try. The government could say, that's not good for you, son, for your safety, comrade, right? And bingo, bango, bongo, they'll just put this into a classification, and all of a sudden, 24-hour hold. It screws with your business, right? And like, not to say I'm on board with grifters or anything like that. I don't want grifters taking advantage of elderly people, but real-time monitoring of elderly people's accounts, right? Like, what's this? Just another grandkid calling their grandmother, right? Like, oh, this one's asking for money. Does this count? Scam? Is it a scam? No. He's just asking for $25. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it, right? Like, I don't know, man. And it's not even going to be human. It's going to be AI, and that's my gut feeling. I don't have any reports to confirm that, but I'm guessing that, hey, telecom companies figure something out, and they're going to say, I want a system that does, because they don't want people listening to tapes all the time, right? They're going to want a system that lives on the phone call with you and has, trigger words and all sorts of stuff. Real-time monitoring of Canadian phone calls. That's what conservatives are offering. Do you want that? Pierre Poilievre, former prime minister. So, right, good and bad. Juno News says North Island Powell River Conservative candidate Aaron Gunn has expressed alarm to learn that a pro-NDP group bust anti-forestry activists to protest his campaign over the weekend. They take high-profile candidates and they try and destroy them. And that's what this is about. Okay. And I'm sure these NDP, like, why is the NDP trying to protest a conservative gathering? Like, it seems that money, it could be used to do outreach and things like that, but instead they're using it to try and poison the well of the conservative candidate. Seems weird, right? Seems off to me. Brett says Poilievre is asked what he means when he says he'll end woke culture in the public service and the military. He gives examples of liberals being light on crime and increasing our debt. He doesn't mention DEI, gender-based analysis, pronoun policies, dress codes, or tampons in men's washrooms. He uses the term woke, but it seems he has no idea what it means. That's by design. You hear, I'll get rid of the woke stuff. And he won't actually get rid of the woke stuff because he hasn't defined it, right? And it's a minute and a half, and he talks around the policies. He doesn't really directly address anything. He talks about bad monetary policies. He talks about making things more expensive or making things more affordable for Canadians, blah, 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 blah. But he's not talking about anything that really matters. I'm just going to pick it up in the middle here, and here we go.
Which releases the same radically violent criminals onto our streets again and again and again. Instead of that, we should lock up the criminals. Their woke agenda on spending has doubled our debt, given us the worst inflation in 40 years, so that single moms
that was COVID. That was COVID, and he voted for that. Like, yeah, again, the spending that did us in was all the COVID pandemic era spending that has completely screwed us over.
To turn back some of the groceries that they're trying to buy when they get to the till and see the price, and has endangered our people in our streets. We need to reverse that, get back to Canadian values of living within our means, leaving more in the pockets of the hardworking people, and letting people get ahead. So the election is really about change. Do you want a fourth Liberal term of skyrocketing costs and crime?
He didn't talk about woke. Not really. Woke spending? Come on. He doesn't really know what it is, right? So again, bad. Here is Tucker Carlson on Pierre Poilievre. I've got Tucker Carlson on 9/11, and the more I see what he did around 9/11, the more I think his dad was CIA, right? Sure was.
And sad and afraid. Right, the Conservatives in Canada seem very feminized to me and kind of self-hating and sad and afraid.
So there you go. There's Tucker Carlson's opinion of the Conservatives. Yeah. Tucker is going to host Maxime Bernier today on his podcast, so that's interesting, right? So, and I mean, that's a good get, right? That's right up there. That's a lot of Conservatives in Canada. Tucker came and did an event. Wasn't it Tucker came and did an event in Alberta? I think he did. And that was a big event. People were excited about that one. And so interesting stuff going on. And they tried to shut it down too, didn't they? So watch for that. It'll be dropping today, and that'll be interesting. Good job for Maxime Bernier getting on a big American podcast. This is the second one in as many weeks during the election. And Poilievre has done a couple of Canadian ones, but not very prominent ones. And like one was Ben Mulrooney, and the other one was whoever this guy is at the beginning that I showed you of the CPC group. I haven't seen this interview, but it's this guy. But I don't know who that guy is. So I don't know. Does he do a lot of Canadian interviews? I haven't seen him. So what are you going to do, right? Maxime Bernier says, this week the woke police brutalized, handcuffed, and arrested independent journalist Natasha Montreal at a pro-Hamas demonstration in Montreal. Meanwhile, women's rights and anti-gender ideology activist and PPC candidate Megan Murphy had her bank account frozen for no apparent reason by the order of the government and is stuck in Mexico. These outrageous violations of our basic rights and freedoms are becoming normalized. The establishment media and political parties don't care about it or even support it. The PPC has been warning you for years that Canada is becoming an authoritarian country. Will you just let it happen without a fight? The fight's happening now. The fight is every one of these, all of these mealy-mouthed, weak policies that Poilievre's coming out with, and people are, I don't want to say falling for, because like you hear what you want with politicians. Politicians say things in kind of not clear ways in order to let you fill in the blanks however you want to fill in the blanks. And that's not that that's weird, but it's weird. And so it's a situation where you hear what you want to hear and you don't hear all of the rest. And we're not, unfortunately, I think it's going to have to be roll it back after it's been implemented. We were able to roll back the lockdowns. We were able to roll back masks. So it's one of those things where people won't tolerate it. And just like got rid of Justin Trudeau and the carbon tax, we'll roll back the stuff that doesn't work because it doesn't work, and society can't tolerate that. But it takes forever. It takes absolutely forever. And the fight is designed to wear people who would normally win the fight in short order to wear people out, because then they get arrested. They have laws used against them, like Mark Friesen. Mark Friesen should have been a high-ranking person in a government run in a minority government as a shadow minister or something like that. Like there are all sorts of really, really great people who have put their hat in the ring with Maxime Bernier, et cetera, et cetera. They get run out. And I mean, I have absolutely no doubt that in the Liberal Party and in the Conservative Party, people were trying to fix it from the inside who all got run out, right? The communists took over, the globalists took over, and that's what we're at now. And if you try and fix it, you're going to get run out, right? Like you're going to get the lawcraft used against you. You're going to have your reputation dragged through the mud. You're going to get fired. You're going to have your wife get fired. You're going to have people give you a hard time, give your kids a hard time, like all sorts of stuff. They do all of this on purpose. And like, I wish it weren't so, but it is so. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it. So they organize, the NDP organize protests against your candidacy. It's wild. And like Aaron Gunn's going through that now, but they were doing that for the PPC in 2019. I experienced it. I'm in the Guelph University area. The university students were all brainwashed. The university canceled debates because they couldn't have a debate without me. So instead of having the debate with me, they canceled. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy town. But this is not new, right? And all of the institutions are corrupt, all of them. And I wish it weren't. I wish it weren't so, but it is so. And so we need to respond to it. Last story for the free show today. Sorry, we're long today. Is the debate. And the Greens have been uninvited. So Patrick says, it isn't much of a debate when they all agree on the big issues. Without Maxime Bernier, this will be a snooze fest. Yeah, the debate's going to be super boring. It's basically just going to be watching to see if Carney hulks out or not. Like, honestly, what strategy should each leader take going into the first debate? They all agree with each other. They all agree with each other. It seems like we're just going to be watching a leftist, like, masturbatory session. Like, it has nothing to do with anything good for the country. All of these people are going to be working to say vague platitudes and isms. Nobody's going to be making news. Nobody's going to be holding people accountable for anything. Nobody's going to be saying anything about anything, really, honestly. And I wish, again, that it weren't so, but it is so. And because it's going to be NDP, the NDP, the Conservatives, and the Liberals, no Greens, it's just going to be I don't think that it's going to be easy to follow with regards to, I'm unsure and I want to find out who I want to vote for. So I'm going to listen to this debate and, come out with a really clear idea of who's better and where everybody stands on a position. I don't think that didn't happen in 2019. It didn't happen in 21. I don't think it's going to happen now. Right? The debates were just boring and structured in a way to not give anybody any real information about anything. So I don't like the debates because they're crap. They're crap. They're done in a crappy way. They're crap. They're just crap. National News Watch says, Leaders Debate Commission has decided to rescind the invitation for the Green Party of Canada to participate in the two leaders debate for the 45th general election. And Fred says this is the right call, but everyone knew 9 days ago the Greens didn't qualify. The debate commission still dragged it out, forcing all parties to prep as if they'd be there, and then dropped the ruling on the debate day. Another black eye for a commission that can't get it together. The commission should be abolished. Everything that Justin Trudeau did should be abolished. Everything. Honestly, the whole government is corrupt. Everything is corrupt. And I don't know how people don't see that, honestly. Western Standard says, who do you plan on voting for? There are 8,000 votes. 1.7% are choosing Liberal. 72% are choosing Conservative. 25% are choosing PPC. And 0.8% are choosing NDP. Is this the Western... I think the Western Standard is a pretty... it's Alberta, so it's West, right? But I guess it doesn't have a broad readership of Liberals. It's not read in Ontario at all. It's not read in Quebec at all. So it's interesting. I'd be interested to see a poll that is not rigged, because they're all fucking rigged. They are. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to swear, but it's just so frustrating. Kian says Elections Canada is preventing rural voters from accessing polling stations. This is outrageous. If you don't live in an urban center, they don't want your vote. That's true. It's very, very true. Oh, I said one other thing. We have to talk about this before I go. Keith is responding to Big Red or Chris Barber. Chris Barber says, bad news. The Crown prosecutors want two-year prison time for Tamara Litch and for Chris Barber and for defending freedom. And they want to seize and auction his truck. And he says his truck, Big Red. Big Red is family. It carried my son, dog, 3.4 million kilometers. It led the Freedom Convoy 2022, uniting us. Liberals aim to erase hope and convoy spirit to deter dissent. I don't even know how to protect yourself from that. Could you gift the truck to somebody? Could you sell the truck to somebody and remove it from your ownership so they don't have any ability to take it? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And Keith responds to this. He says, this is troubling. If the Crown proceeds with this, it will bring the administration of justice into disrepute. This is a political persecution. Canada is broken. Corrupt. Actually, it's corrupt. The elections are rigged. The institutions are corrupt. And the government is a globalist government working at the will of China. And man, I wish it weren't so. But the more I watch this, the more it seems really, really true. We're going to say goodbye to the stream and everybody. 48 minutes in. Sure, why not? Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful